Hello, extravagant lovers. I'm cherished, also known as Butterfly, and I'm a sex coach. And on this channel, we'll explore ways that you can come back to life, especially after spending years of people pleasing and putting yourself last, myself included. And we'll explore how to reconnect with your body and your eros, which is your sexual energy, so that you can live a life that's more loving and juicy and liberated. And sometimes I share stories from my own exploration. That's what I'm going to do today. I recently attended Rupani's week-long workshop in Cyprus, which is right off the coast of Greece. I think the workshop could have been called How to Create a Safe Container for Deeper Intimacy in Relationships. However, Rupani is an internationally recognized expert in the world of BDSM. The workshop was on the principles of a sub-dom relationship. And what I learned completely changed the way that I see relationships, trust, and even myself. A little disclaimer here. I'm going to share a little bit of my experience, but I'm not an expert in this field. There are so many brilliant DOMs and BDSM specialists that you can learn from, and I'll link Om's channel in the description for you. I just love learning, and I do so that I can be the best sex coach for you. I do want to talk a little bit about BDSM. For me, it sounded a little taboo and somewhat intimidating. All I really knew before the workshop was that I liked spankings, but only from people who were properly trained, because an unexpected slap on the ass was never my jam, and it always took me by surprise. It always felt non-consensual, and if the person who did it didn't know what they were doing, it hurt. That was until I attended an ISTA training last summer, and that is an amazing training as well. It teaches you how to use your eros to heal your body and to connect to your body. I met a few people there that were properly trained to know where and how to give a spanking. I have to say that was fun. My birthday happened to fall while I was there on the training, and so I had a lot of birthday spankings, and because the spankings were done properly, it felt so good, and it felt actually really good to my nervous system. We talked about what I wanted beforehand. I gave a pain range from 1 to 10, and when they would give me a spanking, I would call out a number so that they could gauge where I was and my desired experience. So for example, if I told them I wanted my spanking to be a pain level of like a 6, then they would give me a spanking in the proper way, in the proper place on my body. Om always says fat, then muscle, then bone, so that you're attempting to make contact with the fattier parts of your body because your body can absorb it better. So I gave them a pain range of 6. They would start out light, and I would call out what the pain number was for me. So 3, 4, 5. Then when they got to a 6, they could continue giving me spankings at that particular level. Something else that we talked about was aftercare, because during a scene like that, a lot of endorphins get released, and I got into a little bit of an altered state afterwards. So I requested aftercare to be held and cuddled, and I also wanted to hear if I did a good job or not. I like to be called a good girl, so I liked hearing that. It made it a very beautiful experience. I felt very seen and heard and cared for. But that was actually all I really knew about BDSM, that little bit that I had learned. I mean, I, of course, have heard of 50 Shades of Grey. Honestly, I never watched the movie, or I didn't read it because I tried and I thought the writing wasn't very good. The relationship didn't seem consensual, and that bothered me. I mean, if you have a different experience or a different opinion, I would love to hear your expression. I know several people who really loved the series, and they actually found it inspired a new dynamic for them in their relationships, which I definitely applaud. The only other brush with BDSM that I'd had, and I didn't even know was the sub-dom relationship, was at a New Year's Eve party a couple of years ago. I told a guy that I really trusted that I would do whatever he told me to do. And that night he had me dance with someone that I was too scared to go up to on my own, or flirt with some people, and a few other things that I'll share for a different episode. But here's the twist. I had never been given a consequence for not doing what I was told. And if I broke an agreement or I didn't do something that I was supposed to do, no one had ever really held me accountable in a way that actually felt good to me. When I was at this training, the consequence came and the punishment that was given was fun. It hit me in a way that I never saw coming. Here's what went down. I made a secret agreement with a guy there. He would be my dom, and I had to ask him permission before I could hug anyone. And that sounds really easy, but at this particular training, everyone hugged all the time. And so it was kind of fun. Like if somebody came up and asked if they could give me a hug, I would just run over and whisper in his ear, "Someone wants a hug." He would think about it and say, "Okay, you can give them a hug." And it was fun, but there was a moment when I ignored the rule. I didn't think that my dom would notice, and someone came up to me and I just sort of slipped into their arms without thinking twice. My dom did notice. He leaned in close and he whispered, "I saw you hugged someone without asking for permission first." I just kind of blew it off. I honestly wasn't really expecting any consequences. I mean, we were just kind of playing along. Also, I had recently gotten divorced after being married for 18 years. And since my separation a year and a half ago, I've been living very freely, doing what I want when it feels good to me. But then he said, "You have to be punished." And that caught my attention. So I waited for something harsh that would make me feel a little bit badly and want to resist his punishment. Instead, he said, "Your punishment is that you must hug someone before they ask you for a hug. And it can't be someone that you're about to sit with." My punishment for hugging someone was to hug someone. And it sounds really simple, right? But it cracked something open inside of me. And it brought me so much silly, goofy joy, and it almost brought me to tears. Actually, I think later in our conversation, it did bring me to tears. Let's just back up a bit. Back to my childhood. I had undiagnosed ADHD, and I broke the rules all of the time without trying. I was a very unrefined and messy, nonstop wild child. And the response that I got from authority, even my own family, was often rejection, anger. I was called a brat. My mom would say that I was such a pill. And people treated me like I was a problem. My punishment was exclusion and constant disapproval. So I learned that making mistakes meant being unloved. And I learned to mask. I people pleased. I figured out what made others feel comfortable, and I changed. I would hide my fun, wild self, and I would shrink until those around me felt comfortable so that they would approve of me. But this moment during the training with my dom, he didn't reject me. He didn't berate me. Instead, he gave me a consequence that was playful and fun and even flirty, and no part of me was rejected. This wasn't the power struggles of my past relationships. It was about accountability in a way that made me feel seen and cherished rather than pushed away. That made me trust him so deeply. Something inside me shifted. I had always held on to control. I always had to be in my masculine self to make sure everyone else was held and was comfortable and had their needs met. But this made me want to surrender. And for the first time, I felt safe enough to trust that my mistakes wouldn't make me feel unworthy. And that trust, that feeling of being seen and enjoyed rather than resented, turned me on in a way that I didn't expect. It also wasn't about sex. I mean, I didn't even have sex with him. I did not have sex with the dom. This was about healing. It can provide a safe place for the layers of protection to fall off. Oh, where all of me is welcome. And for someone like me who had always been too much, too energetic, too wild, too free, revolutionary, this was coming home to myself. Now, there are so many variables to safely engaging in BDSM practices. This example was just like a tiny little pixel on the vast digital canvas, like the screen that you're watching this on. There are many foundational discussions, agreements, and safety precautions that need to be put into place for a sub-dom scene to feel safe. The dom must be fully present during the entire scene, and the sub must be fully honest about what they're experiencing. And that takes practice, especially if you've been a people pleaser like me. It's hard to say, this is where I am, and this is what I need, and this is what I want, and I need you to pause. But you get to learn those dynamics in this relationship. So if you've ever felt like you've lost touch with a playful, sexy, radiant part of yourself, if you've been so busy holding it together that you've forgotten what it feels like to be fully alive, I want to invite you to try a couple of things. I have 3 things for you to try. The first one is honoring your desires and your boundaries with conscious consent. Next time, before saying yes to anything, pause and ask yourself, do I truly want this? Or am I avoiding discomfort? Practice expressing your authentic desires, whether it's initiating intimacy, choosing where to eat, or just saying no without feeling guilty. Your pleasure and boundaries matter. The second thing is to explore power and softness in your body and in your life. And so playing with experiencing both leading and being led can be really freeing. Try putting on your favorite music and dancing in the mirror. And then explore your dominant voice by giving yourself a command, instructing the dance to be slower, softer, more lovingly touch your body. Feel your submissive safely let go. What does that feel like to experience power and softness in your body? Number 3 is ask a partner or a friend to help you reframe your mistakes. In a well-held BDSM scene, mistakes aren't failures. They're opportunities to adjust and refine. If you don't have a romantic partner to explore this with, ask a trusted friend to be your accountability partner. If speaking up feels scary, ask your friend or partner to dare you to share your opinion on something lighthearted. If receiving compliments makes you uncomfortable, tell your friend or partner they get to punish you by making you say 3 good things about yourself. Best friends are great for this because they see your brilliance even when you don't. And they can push you to take risks so that you can start seeing your amazing self too. The goal isn't to control, it's growth, trust, and maybe even a little fun. So apply this mindset to life. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments because I would love to hear your experiences. Your journey is sacred. If you're curious about exploring new relationship dynamics, whether it's trust, power exchange, or deepening intimacy, keep coming back and let's rewrite these old fear-based stories and create a new dynamic leading you to a sacred awakening where play, passion, and an extravagant life filled with abundant love and joy.